All right, so the demo account that we're going to be using is something that the Google Analytics team makes available as part of helping to train people on how to use Google Analytics. It's coming from the Google Merchandise Store. And so you can see they have some documentation here about what it is, where the data comes from, what the different kinds of data means, what you can do, what you can't do with this thing. They even have instructions on how to remove access to this account once you're done playing around with it. So if you want to add this account to, if you want to access it yourself, what you do is you click one of the three links at the end of this section. So we're going to be doing the Universal Analytics property, Google Merchandise Store Web Data. You click that and it will kick you into the Google Analytics interface. And that interface is here. Let me close this down a little bit. Here we go. This is the home page of Google Analytics. You can see we're engaging already in this whole accounts properties view thing up in the top left corner. If you click that, you will see all of the accounts you have access to. So you'll see I've set up a couple of websites and used Google Analytics on them, my personal website, other things. In each of those accounts, you will see the properties that are associated with that account. So for this demo account, Google has associated 3 different properties with that. And then for each of those properties, you have views. So you have a filtered version of the data that was collected by analytics. I'm going to use this master view. So once you have a view selected, it will dump you into the home page. And that home page gives you a very generic version of all the data that it's collecting. We can see rough usage figures. It's giving us a revenue report, a conversion rate. You can't escape this stuff here. It's telling you how many people are on the website right now and telling you how to potentially improve your performance of your website. Lots of high-level generic reports that can be useful to at least get a sense of who's using your website. Now, the nice thing about the Google Analytics report is that, or the Google Merchandise Store, is that a lot of people use it. So these lines look, they're very, very data-like. If we were to look at my personal website, not that many people are visiting it. It's a little bit harder to get the value of the Google Analytics off of something like that. So at least to understand how these things work, if you don't have access to a larger website, this demo store is pretty nice for that. And if you're curious about buying some Google merchandise, I'll throw in, this is the actual store that we are looking at. This is an actual functioning website. If you want to buy any branded Google merchandise, you purchase it from here. All right, so this is the overall view. Let's jump into here. You can see there are a few tabs down the left side of this view. We see real-time, audience, acquisition, behavior, and conversions, and that will line up with some of those dimensions that I was talking about. These are the users that are coming to the website, reports about them, here's how they're coming to the website, and here's what they're doing once they get onto the website. The conversions thing, that's a more advanced topic, I would say. That's more about like, hey, are they actually buying stuff? And the real-time thing, I'll just demonstrate that because it is interesting. This shows people that are currently on the website. So you can see there's currently 38 people, including myself, on this website. And we can see which pages they're using, where they're coming from, what countries they're coming from, things like that. So that's an interesting view, especially one of the ways that I've used this in the past is when I've worked for companies that were publishing reports. The day that we launched the report and started doing press for it or a survey or things, and if we had analytics running on it, I would have this open just to like get a sense of like people are actually reading this or they're actually downloading this thing and interacting with the thing that we made. It was a little bit of a thrill to say like, yeah, I helped make a PDF and like somebody's actually using it and we can see them come in and start to use it. So that's real time. It just gives you a sense of what's happening right now. But really what you're probably going to be doing in evaluation is looking at these behavior, acquisition, and audience reports. So every single one of these breaks down into a larger report or a larger section of reports. You can see here for audience, we have an overview, then active users, lifetime value, again, the money, cohort analysis, talking about marketing sectors, demographic, interests, geo, behavior, technology, mobile, etc. Now, when it comes to cultural heritage organizations, we're probably not doing lifetime value or cohort analysis. We're probably taking this demographics report that they have and just ignoring it entirely. We probably want to not collect any of this information because it's a little bit creepy, and I don't know how much we can trust this stuff. So we can see here Google is tracking the age range based on, as I said, the Google account that you have logged in. It's tracking a gender based on what that Google account has identified is. Only if somebody has provided that information, and only if you configure your account to agree to accept that information. You can actually turn this off. So I think a lot of people would turn this off. The interest here, this is coming again from various marketing categories that they're applying to your Google profile. We talked in the past about exporting Twitter profiles and things like that, and how when you look the reports that any social media company has on you, they assign you into these market segments and affinity categories and things. Again, we probably want to ignore that. What's probably more interesting for us as cultural heritage organizations, and less skeezy in terms of the information that we're implying or assuming about our users, is the geographic information. So this is coming from two places, or we get two kinds of reports here. We get a language report and we get a location report. The location report has a map, which is always more interesting, so we'll look at that. The way that this is generated is that the IP address of the IP address of the user's device is reported along with the date that they're using the website, which pages, etc. That IP address, while not extremely specific, can be narrowed down to a city range. So here we can see, here's the world report, but we can click into United States, and we can click farther. We can see, okay, well, Google's centered in California. Surprise, surprise. Most users are from California. And if we go further, we can get to a city level and say, wow, San Jose. Again, that's, I think, the closest city to where it is. But that's as detailed as that information gets. So we get city level information that could help us know, where are users coming from? Are we a very local institution? Do we have international audiences that are coming to visit us? One of the things that I found in looking at the analytic for NYPL is that we have a very strong user base of just a couple of videos from Thailand, and so strong that they actually show up across the entirety of our digital collections. And in large part, it's because those videos document dance from Thailand and have appearances from the royal family of Thailand in the video. So they get shared every year on Facebook for some reason or another. But yeah, you see a spike in traffic from Thailand, which is interesting. I don't know what exactly we would do with it, but it is something that we can use to talk about, we're a global institution and we want to make sure that our websites are able to support global users. So language and location, those are things that are reported a little bit more anonymously that were probably useful to you. I think the other very common thing to look at is the mobile and technology zone. So here we have the technology. You can see sometimes it will report down to the level of the phone that somebody is using. You can see at Google, most people have iPhones. But if we're looking at technology, which I think is a little bit more interesting here, we can see which browsers people are using. So this is something that we can use to say, okay, well, are we sure that our website looks good on Chrome and Safari and Edge and Firefox? And browser, okay, there's 12 users. How many resources do we want to put into browser testing for that? The network here, I don't think they have this configured. Okay, this is pulling in from which mobile provider that you're using. But this browser and OS is very useful, and potentially if you can look at the desktop versus mobile, again, that's very useful to understand how does our website appear to people and what is their preferred way of using our website. Which platform should we be targeting? All right, so those are some of the things that we can do with the audience tab. Now, as I mentioned, there is information that Google grabs from other places, and you can read exactly how they generate those things. And you can also enable or disable those from your analytics reports. So something when you're setting this up for an organization that you want to take into consideration. All right, so then we can go over to acquisition. So what acquisition is telling us is where people are coming from to our website. So just looking at the overview gives us another good idea of what's happening here. And what you see is it's broken down into ad stuff. You can see there's direct links, there's paid search links. So these are links that show up at the top of a search engine result. Display links, so these are display ads like banner ads, things like that. And then affiliate links, so links from people you've made a deal with and you've probably put a tracking code of some kind onto that link. So if we click into any one of these aspects, you can see not only can we see that somebody is linking to the site directly, but we can see what part of the website that they're linking to. So we can look and say, oh, the Google redesign, this is probably the most popular part of what's happening on the website, especially in the last week. This is where the report timeline is. So we can do deeper analysis of this. If we click further into one of these links, I believe we don't actually see any more detail. All we're seeing is we've gone down to the lowest level of dimension that they're tracking, and now we have the metrics associated to that dimension. So this is how many users visited that link, how many of them were new, how many times they visited. So we see that we have about 1,000 people that visited more than once. What they did once they started visiting. So these people stayed on the page for about 3 minutes. And then what they actually did by the end of it. So the people that are just coming into the homepage, most of them don't actually buy anything at the end of the day. And if we go back to the larger report of all the various direct links, you'll see that the conversion rates really depend on where you send somebody. So if you push somebody over to the basket page, well, they probably have a basket already filled out, and so they're going to finish the purchasing process. If you send them directly to a merchandise page, they're more likely to buy something than if they just come in to the policies page or the home page or things like that. So these can be useful. Again, the e-commerce part is maybe less useful to us, but these can be useful to understand, okay, well, what are people linking to? Like, what are the most popularly linked to portions of our website? Are there any collection items that are very important? Are people linking to the homepage versus some other portion of the website? This is all part of understanding how people are coming in and then what they're doing after that. All right, so one of the other things that I'll mention is something, how they pull apart some of this information, especially the ad information and things like that. And that comes from, if you've ever noticed at the end of a link, these weird codes that say like UTM underscore something something equals something. And you could see a whole chain of those being written. Those are, we saw this sort of syntax when we looked at APIs. This question mark is saying, okay, I have some data that I want to send. And this is the data. Here's the name of the data, and then the actual value of the data is after the equal sign. It's a lot like an API parameter because it is engaging the API for something like analytics to use. And you can configure your analytics account to say, okay, anytime you come across a URL and it has a question mark at the end, I want you to pull apart all these key value pairs and start tracking those as well. That stuff gets put into the analytics reports, and you can actually track how well or how many times somebody uses a link from one email campaign or different email campaign. The key is that when you're a marketer, you're probably changing the value of this depending on, if I'm posting it on Twitter or if I'm posting it on Facebook or the first email or the second email or a newsletter or things like that. And then you can really peel apart like how effective was each of these pieces of communication. So there are a whole bunch of these UTM codes that you can use. And again, Google Analytics has a page to help understand how those are used. So they will walk you through and tell you, what you're doing here, things like that. And again, all of this is advertisers or marketing or whatever. If you're running a survey, it can be useful to use that to track, which listservs am I launching that survey on? Or if you're publishing a report, if you're doing things like that, it can be helpful to understand and to really uniquely identify a very particular push of information in order to understand, what channels you're using are the most valuable ones, so to launch information on there in the future again. All right, so that is talking about our source portion. The last section of reports I want to look at is behavior. So this is talking about what people are doing once they're on your website. You can see we have a whole bunch of things, what pages they're looking at, how fast it's functioning, what events they're performing. But I always like to click on this one because it is the most interesting visualization. So what the behavior flow page shows us is what people are doing as they are flowing through the website. So we see how they're entering, a whole bunch of people on the home page, and then you see this same set of pages that we saw before, the redesign pages and then all the other ones. And then what do they do starting from there? We see that once they come into the home page, most people actually leave. They're like, oh, I actually don't want to be on this website. I don't want to buy merchandise. But the people that do continue on, many of them go to buy Google merchandise. Less of them go to buy YouTube merchandise. Less of them go to buy Android merchandise. And then if we can click further, I'm not being able to scroll in this interface. There we go. If we go further, you can see those people continue to click around and where they go within the website. So it's an interesting way to look at somebody's journey through the website in aggregate across all of your users. And especially these little red bars, which tell you when does somebody figure out that this is not the place where I want to be and to stop using your website. So that's the overall behavior flow. But when we look at the overview, we can see it's broken down into all kinds of things here, all types of ways that you've tabbed up your content. So let's look at the site content report. The site content report gives us just purely how many people have been on a page, not if this is their first page, but if they've been to a page at all. And we can see the most popular pages are the home page, the basket, so checking out, and the store, so the overall listing of all the products. And this is where people spend the most time. However, we can reorganize this and we can say, okay, well, where do people actually kind of sit on the page and start looking for stuff? Oh, well, we have the Nest page. Actually, people spend 14 minutes on that for some reason. The BoJack Horseman promotional tie-in page. People spend 14 minutes looking at that page. Okay, that's interesting. Do these things actually generate value? No, although the Pacific Northwest Campus Ladies Tea page did generate $113 in sales. So interesting for them in that sense. We can look at where people exit and things like that. But the one other thing that I'll point out, and it's hard to illustrate this on the Google page because it doesn't quite work like the ways that I've seen it, is this events thing. So what events are things that happen while somebody is on a page. So at NYPL, every time somebody presses the play button on a video playback event or video playback page, that is logged as an event. Every time they press pause or they scrub forward or backward, that is logged as an event. And so we can actually get a sense of, okay, well, how many people go to a video page and then press play and say, okay, great, I'm watching the video now. Or how many of them say, actually, now that I see this page, I'm not that interested in the stuff that we have. So this is another report. And again, you have to configure your website to send this information to them. In this case, Google Merchandise Store is logging events like how many times people press the Contact Us page. And they click on, let's see, we'll find the contact part of this. Yeah, okay, maybe we have to go shopping. And once they click on a contact page somewhere, oh man, where is the contact us link? There are endless products here. Perhaps here, then you would actually go from there, and they would log that event to say, okay, somebody had a problem, and this is when and where they had that problem. So lots of ways that people use this information, but again, the question is how it applies to your specific situation. All right. So one of the things that the behavior account does, or the behavior content thing does, is that it looks at the URL to try to understand the way that you are using your collections, or using the pages. So when you look at something like the content drill down, there we go. We'll see here, Google Plus Redesign, all of the people looking at the Google Redesign pages are collected together. And then once we look at that, we see, okay, here are all the people that looked at apparel within that, or lifestyle, or shop by brand within that set of pages. And what it's doing is it's breaking apart the URL section by section. They're looking at googlemerchandisestore.com/Google Redesign/apparel/ etc. And they're allowing us to group that information together. So this, again, you don't want to redesign your website to take advantage of this functionality, but it's part of the reason why you see people organize their URLs the way that they do, is that it makes it easier to analyze the usage of their website. So when you have a museum and you have like /collections and then /collection name /item title, it helps you be able to group that data together to say, okay, now we can get a report of the most popular collections, not just the most popular individual item pages. All right, and then finally, we can look at the search section here. So what the search does is, if you go to any page, the way that search often works is, let's look for a mug. Why not? Let's find a mug. The way that search often works is, you'll see the same sort of API setup here. We have a question mark, and then we have a keyword. The key is that, and the value of that is mug. And it gets passed over to a script that searches the website and then creates a website or a page just for us. And so that is what this page is doing, is it is parsing those portions of the website out. They have not configured it to be able to pull those codes out, but you can configure your website so that the analytics is doing that for you. All right, so that's an overview of Google Analytics. It could be something that you find very valuable in your organization. If you're interested in experimenting with it, there is this demo site. I find it valuable because it has so much data that you could actually see how somebody would use it in real life. There are tutorials built around it, but you can also add analytics to your personal website or any other thing that you're doing on the web, as long as you have, you actually own that website. So how you do that is you go to the admin section over here in the bottom left. There we go, with that gear icon. And then you can create an account and name that account whatever you want. Create a property. That property will give you a code incorporated into your personal website, etc. And you have analytics. And this is actually the kind of thing that I would recommend people interested in this do right now, because the key thing is analytics tracks stuff over time. And so the only way to start getting the data that's going to be generated tomorrow is to have this thing installed today. Whether you know what you want to do with that data, that's a different question, but it's much easier to make decisions about this data if you're actually gathering it to start with. And it's something, I forget that I've installed analytics on my personal website, and then I'll go out and, apply for a job or do a conference presentation or something like that. And I'll say, oh, I wonder if that actually made an impact. I wonder if anybody checked out some of that information as a result. And I go over to my analytics and I can actually see a little spike, a little bump in traffic. And, it's a nice thing to be able to see. So if you're interested in experimenting more, and especially experimenting with your own data and seeing what options you can turn on or off, go here, create an account, add some, change the account settings, add a property, and add it to your personal website and see where it goes from there. But this was an initial demonstration of Google Analytics. I'm happy to, as I said, answer any questions that you have over email, and we'll be engaging a little bit more with this after our regularly scheduled class next week. All right. Thanks, and I hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving.